Everybody, and welcome to our online kitchen talk tonight. As I already told some of the participants who joined us on Zoom, we have quite shitty weather in Berlin. It's gray and cold, so it feels very cozy to stay at home and meet some colleagues with a cup of tea or a beer, and no need to leave the house. And actually, this is what makes the n-ost kitchen talk different from the other rather formal online discussions. We invite you to our kitchens, and then we stay for an informal exchange with some wine and beer after the public streaming is over. So feel free to register next time if you want to join us for the informal part as well. And if you have joined us only on Facebook this time, you'll still have the option to actively participate in the discussion, of course. Just use the comment function, please, and we will provide your questions and comments to the moderator. Tonight, we have a very special topic. We have invited colleagues from the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and the Republic of Moldova, who will tell us about their experiences they made during an experimental project that had its kick-off directly after our media conference in Chisinau last October, which was also the moment where we had our last offline kitchen talks, by the way, as some of you might remember. Anyway, now I would like to give over to my colleague Christian, who was actively involved in this project and is therefore hosting this kitchen talk tonight. Thank you very much, Christian, and now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Polina, and welcome also to everyone watching us on Facebook. I'm really happy to see also here in the Zoom my colleagues and the team of this project, and also some other guests from our n-ost network. Welcome to everybody. Yes, so today you are kind of getting live access to our kind of official feedback talk about this project. It's the first time that we actually, after we finish the project, meet and have a kind of a wrap up of the whole last. It started, I think, in October, November, as Polina told. So the last 6-7 months, the project is already finished since approximately 2 months. Cross-border, collaborative cross-border cooperation, journalism, a reality check. That's how we named the discussion today. And before we will start to explain to you exactly what we did in this project, I just want to use this just shortly to introduce you to the overall discussion at n-ost that we had in the last media conference and also in the last year that led also to this project. So there are some problems we are identifying, and we are trying to think about solutions and experiment with solutions, and we think that some experiments are important in this field. So I think we all agree and know that there is just a general tendency that there is a media crisis happening over the last, a media funding crisis happening over the last 1 or 2 decades, online journalism, etc. And that also foreign reporting is not only in like even in media systems that have more resources, like for example in Germany or Britain, is getting less funded, and resources are lacking for original foreign reporting. There are much less correspondents now all over the world, etc. But on the same time, we also have, especially in Eastern Europe, where we in some countries had some kind of a spring of press freedom and of new medias popping up all over the region, and they also did some. They had some resources, often they were owned by Western publishers, but then these mostly withdrew over the last decade, and there are much less resources even in the media that in the Eastern European media could afford some kind of foreign reporting. So the reality in a lot of partners that we at n-ost partner media that we are facing is that most media doesn't even have like one or two foreign correspondents in other countries, but and the normal foreign reporting is often done by kind of a copy-paste culture from international media, and so there is not even this kind of foreign reporting tradition in this sense, or this culture of correspondence, and there is a big lack of resources. And also we understood that while a lot of the countries are looking towards the West or towards more the global issues, or if it's not the Russian media, they are looking also towards Russia. They are not so much looking at each other, so at their immediate neighbors in the region themselves. And even if, for example, I don't know, let's say Romanian want to learn something about Polish developments, they often get their information by international or Western media. And so at n-ost we are kind of in this, we are seeing these problems in the last years, we're discussing it, and this project was kind of our first experiment where we said, okay, what will happen if we maybe join forces, if we get together media from different countries and try to think of ways to collaborate and to find solutions to these different lacks. And yeah, so that's why we are here today. And this sounds probably quite meta, but I will now pass to Kaja, who was kind of the coordinating editor of the project, and would love to let her introduce a little bit the project, and then after it I will also ask the questions again.
Okay, so I will just shortly introduce our editors that took part in the project. So Robert Břešťan is from Hlídací, so the Czech investigative medium. Anna Gherciu from Moldova.org, yeah, the Moldovan news outlet and opinion outlet, and Ervin Gűth from Szabad, Pécs, the local online newspaper from Pécs, Hungary. And yeah, my name is Kaja, and I was representing the Polish opinion online magazine Krytyka Polityczna, but I was also coordinating the whole project. So yeah, a few words about the project. Yeah, we met in Chisinau when the last n-ost conference took place. But it turned out that 2 or 3 hours for editors that don't know themselves is not that much. So we just got to know ourselves, and we knew that we want to do something online, that we don't want to produce another English language free brochure that would be distributed between our partners, because you know how it is with free brochures, no one reads them really. So we knew that we want to do something that is relevant for our readers, and that we want to cooperate in order to strengthen foreign reporting in our media outlets. Yeah, so we decided for formats that are digital and attractive for our readers. We identified the topics. We met again in Warsaw, in my apartment actually. Yeah, and I see in my notes that Christian insisted that I underlined that we used Slack channel. So probably it's high time for n-ost to get some funding from Slack, because we are promoting it so much. Yeah, anyway, I'll just shortly introduce you 3 formats that we finally created. We published, I think, like almost 30 articles together. I mean, 10 articles, but in different languages. So in the end, there are more of them. So actually, we stick to 3 formats. The first one was what we called solution articles. So maybe you have already heard the notion of solution journalism. We decided to identify problems that are common for our region and show one solution from one country. So it might be on the level of government or organization or private initiative, whatever. Sorry, now I will share my screen with you. Yeah, do you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. So this is the website of the project. So you can see how many texts we have published. Oh shit, how I am going to, okay. Sorry, that's difficult. Okay, so this is an example of solution article. It was written by Ervin, so it's about the Hungarian Roma people, how they are trying to empower their communities by building their own restaurant and promoting Roma or Gypsy cuisine. So this article was published in Czech, Polish, and Romanian language. But it was not only a translation. We were trying to, like all the editors, we were trying to, to make an article more relevant for our readers. So make some comparisons with the situation within our countries and try to underline how this experience can be actually used in our countries. Here I added a comment of somewhere in the end of an expert from association working in order to empower Roma communities in Wrocław. The second type of text was something that we called twin texts. So the idea behind it was that journalists from 2 different countries were working together. Sometimes they wrote some part of their texts in English and they just composed a common text. Sometimes they just were fixers to each other, so they were just exchanging their ideas and their local backgrounds, and then the authors, in the end, they wrote articles about a problem that is common for 2 countries. So here we have an article about decommunization in Czech, but it also shows examples from Moldova, and here it's the Moldovan version. What's important that these articles are not identical. They are just, like what was relevant for our readers was used, and the third third format that we used, it's a listicle. So for sure you know it also from Ostpol when because it published listicles as well. So it's a very light digital format, like 7 best ideas where to spend your vacations or something like this. So we together with journalists also from other countries, not only ours, we created an article about 7 cool Eastern European post-communist districts where you would like to live. So Christian did a research, and it turned out that 7 is the best number to use in the listicle. So that's why we decided to follow his research and basically we found out 10 common topics that were interesting for all of us, and use these formats to create content during the project that took like 5 months, from February to the end of May. And now I will stop sharing my screen. Christian?
Thank you, Kaja, so much. So I think it showed. I mean, it's actually impressive, right? We published around I don't know 30 content pieces in 4 media. It looks great already, but I think what was interesting. I hope everyone who now watches us understood that there were like different forms of collaboration in regards to 3 different formats. Like one where especially one journalist would write a text and the others could use it, the translations, and they could add to it. And the other one where 2 journalists would identify one common topic and both write from their perspective, from their countries. And again, you could use the text blocks that you would like to integrate in your story. And the last one, kind of a more additive listicle, where you would identify a topic that is
that connects the region,
relevant, connects the region, and bring 7 different journalists in. Okay, thank you, Kaja. So I think maybe let's start. I hope if already someone has questions, but I thought if I think of this Warsaw meeting that we had at the beginning, I would like to ask you, what were your expectations for this project? You were already participating in this publication print projects before, but when you heard, okay, we are now 4 medias, we will have to do online journalism that is actually going to take place on our websites, that should be relevant for our readers. So it should not be a meta project, but it should actually be something that we ourselves, from our own logic as media, would say it's relevant. What were your expectations, and how did you feel after the first meeting? Maybe Robert, do you want to start? Unmute.
Oops. Great. Okay. You know, I don't like so much cross-border projects at all. Yeah, but this one was quite exceptional for me. Firstly, I would like to explain why I don't like this kind of projects. You have mentioned at the very beginning that the media in the region are not only in the region, but we are in crisis from the financial point of view. When you are seeking any funding in a European level, you always have they always ask you to have some cross-border cooperation, and I have a feeling that in many cases it's just cooperation for cooperation, just to get the money from EU, and from the content point of view, it's not so much interesting both for the readers and for the media. So I was curious about this project, and to be honest, I'm really happy with the outcome, because we were able to find almost in all the cases the topics which are interesting for all of us, all readers, which is not usual, I think. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the way how to make the collaborative projects, just to find topics which where both sides or all sides find the pros of the topic of this article. So from our point of view, most or best article for us was probably the how do you call it, with the Polish side, this light pollution problem, which is, I think, important and interesting all over the world, in fact. But you have great example on the Czech-Polish borders, which was great. Very important topic, not only for us but all over Europe, is the atomic energy and nuclear power stations, which is the story we covered together with Ervin. And this is really important story for Czech Republic now, and it's great to have some angle and some new information from from country where they have their own new and important experience also for us. So I like this project, and the key reason why I like it was because I am really a man of content, and I like good content, and this project was, as far as I'm concerned, mostly about content, not about the way how to find some funding and make everything possible to just get the funding and do not care about the content.
Okay, thank you, Robert. It's nice to hear. Anna, what were your expectations? It was the first cross-border project, right, for Moldova.org, and you're quite skeptical normally about any new ideas that I propose to you. So I guess you were probably also skeptical at this time. Please share your.
This is fake news. What you're doing right now.
So reality check, Anna. What were you expecting before, and how do you look at the project now, and what happened in between? Can you tell us and everyone who's interested in this kind of?
Honestly, I don't really remember what my expectations were, because I was mostly like concerned that we will not be able to do our part, because it's the first time we are doing a cross-border project. But I think for us it was a great experience because as we are journalists in Moldova, we have this feeling that we are too small, and we have the problems of a small country, and nobody gives no one is interested in our problems. But this project showed that no matter the country you are in, and no matter where you're born, everyone has almost the same problems. And so that's a great feeling, that we share the problems and we share the solutions. And for me, it was very important to understand that. Of course, it was not like I discovered America or something like that, but it was very rewarding to understand it. And the topics, of course, were interesting for us. And it was great to do this in team with someone who, well, in our case, the team of Moldova.org team didn't meet with the journalists, right? Only we, the editors, knew each other. So for them also, that was an interesting experience.
Thank you, Anna. Ervin, how was it with you? Expectations and final result, and also did you learn something new with this project?
This was our second cross-border project. Actually, we had a project with n-ost past year, and we had great feedback. So it was a print magazine, very, very different approach from this project, but it was a joy to see the outcome already for the past project. And yes, we always wanted, we earlier wanted to do something like this, but did not have the chance to find project partners or didn't know how to start it. And that's why we would like to thank n-ost for the opportunity. And also because it's not in our focus. And when I mean in the focus of Szabad Pécs, we usually deal with local issues. So we thought that it would be hard to find common topics, but actually it was quite easy. So already after the first meeting in Chisinau, I couldn't imagine how we could do it, but it was quite easy to find common topics with these countries. So yeah.
I also think this experience in Warsaw, we only had one day, and we sat in Kaja's apartment and we said, okay, guys, so we want to produce, I don't know, we said something about 8 to 10 articles, or so let's find our topics. And since then I often said it, if you put 4 or 5 journalists into one room from different countries and tell them to find common topics, they will find common topics, right? It's just not the usual approach, because normally you are trained to, you know, just think about your country and what is interesting for it, what's important geopolitically, international politics, etc. But there are actually so many things where we have, you know, that are affecting all of us, and if we just change a little bit our paradigm, we will very quickly find these common European topics that concern all of us, where some might already have learned something that others could use as well, where it's just interesting to understand that you are not alone, as Anna said, right? Because this is also something that actually is often used by, for example, let's call them illiberal governments, you know, this lack of knowledge of the others, and this kind of, okay, we are only focused on ourselves, we don't know about the others, but actually the others have quite similar problems. Or okay, so great, guys. I have the feeling that we did a good job with this new approach, and what I think would be interesting before we go, or maybe let's go to the concrete work. So how, after we found the topics, we made a timeline, right? A publication timeline. And everyone knew, okay, I have to write something about this topic until XYZ, and I will have to work together with the other colleague from the other country about this topic. So what were like how was this collaborative process looking like for you? What did you learn on the way? What was difficult maybe? What was not working so good, or what was working very well? And next time, if we would do it, what would you know beforehand? Like, okay, that's how I would like to do it next time, because I already have these experiences. Maybe Robert?
In fact, I don't consider it as something, some very special approach. You know, when you have colleagues, it doesn't matter to me if they are based in I don't know, Warsaw or somewhere in the Hungary. They are just let's say external partners or external writers, and I ask them to write me an article or give me some information, and I got them. So the work was very smooth from this point of view. I don't have any points what to underline, or what to, or something to say that it wasn't good. I think it was quite smooth cooperation. Of course, there were some troubles with several terms with articles, but it happened in normal life, in journalistic life, and but the outcome was in quite good quality in all the cases, and I don't consider it as something special. You know, from a journalistic career, it's just the normal work with sources and freelancers or external experts and partners.
And do you think it was helpful that we had this meeting before, that it worked so smoothly? Or
yeah, definitely. I cannot imagine that you can discuss like something like this through email or through this kind of conference. Maybe because of coronavirus, we know that everything is possible now. But it was really helpful. I think it's important to add that we did our homework before we came to Kaja's flat, and we prepared our ideas, what kind of articles we would like to write. So it was kind of brainstorming, definitely it was, but we were prepared. It wasn't out of nothing. But it was definitely helpful to meet each other to have some beer together and meet ourselves and discuss in one place and decide during one day. It was really good.
Kaja, how did you feel? Like, why did it work so well, or were there any things that were not working so good, or was there any, I don't know, anything to mention, anything special about this kind of collaboration? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I like, to be honest, like I share the reservations about cross-border publications with Robert. I mean, like, sometimes you are in so many projects and then you end up publishing just, let's publish it in the middle of the night because it's not interesting. It just, it had to be done because we wrote it in the application, but actually we didn't think about it too much because there was a deadline for application, and this was not the case. I mean, like, okay, we wrote the application earlier and then we had some problems with our funding institution because of it, but in the end, like, we decided that we will really think about what we want to do, and in the end, our donor was nice enough to accept that we are going to change everything. So and sometimes it might be not a case. So that's good, because actually it's not like, as Robert said, now maybe we can imagine in the pandemic times that everything is done on Zoom, but to be honest, without having met when the project has started, so you need money to organize this meeting already. It was not possible to plan this project in details. Like, if we have a deadline and we have 4 media representatives writing emails, I cannot imagine this kind of work. So these meetings were really, really crucial. And obviously, as a freelancer, I knew how fruitful international projects can be. Like, usually they're about networking. We all know it, right? That we have workshops, conferences, blah, blah, blah. This is something that I call youth camps. I participate very very often, or used to participate before the coronavirus. And then as a freelancer, I use these contacts, right? Like, I have couches all over the world and free fixers all over the world, and I can be a fixer and give a place to sleep to my friends who are freelancers wherever in the world. So I knew that it could give something, but I also imagined that it would be difficult from the editorial point of view, because obviously in each editorial office you have different it's not only one person deciding, but it's sometimes more complicated. And to be honest, I was really frightened that we have so different partners, like a local newspaper, investigative magazine, news outlet, and opinion magazine. This is like, how are we actually going to find common topics? And I was surprised that it went so smoothly. And maybe this is how Anna said, that it turned out that we have similar problems. And personally, I'm very happy that we described also social issues, because, like, okay, with political reporting, we have some coverage in our news also about countries in the region. Like, we know what's going on in the politics, but not more. And this was a good opportunity to, to meet your neighbor or something.
So this actually means right now, I just asked Robert and Kaja, but it was the special approach here is, as Kaja mentioned, if you're a foreign correspondent, freelancer, you're an author, then you can use all this collaboration and so on. But what if media cooperates with each other? If editors cooperate with each other? It's like changing a little bit the game. It's getting maybe a little bit more complicated, etc. But as far as I hear it now, it was not so complicated at all. After we established the kind of trust. We know each other. We had this, we made our homework, as Robert said, we prepared well. We got to know each other. We established our communication channels. We established our timeline. And at this point, everything kind of worked out well. Probably it was some new things you have to translate, or a little bit you have to contextualize. But as far as I hear it now, it's not a thing that is impossible to do, right? It could be maybe done more if the outcome is regarded as something relevant.
But it's also a question of time. Like I can see that maybe not in our media outlets, because we all are also kind of, I don't want to use a word niche maybe, but we are not super mainstream news outlets chasing for news, you know. But I can imagine that in case of like really big mainstream media, it might be a challenge to connect not really journalists, but so-called media workers, to connect them with their partners abroad, and you know, and waste time on writing something in English or translating on or blah blah blah, because their work is basically to translate something from the press agencies and create a news very quickly. But in case of our media, so I would say middle-size medias that are producing quality content, it definitely makes sense.
I just add to this that I would be happy if also mainstream or larger media, for example, in Hungary also, would use journalists from other countries to write about these countries, because normally no one writes about it, or the reporting is very superficial a lot of times. But this is another question. I think probably it's also not so hard to establish this kind of cooperations. Okay, but let's move on. Maybe if Anna or Ervin, you want to add something about the concrete experience of collaborating? Was there something that you would like to mention again? That you, something special, some best practices or cases where you were feeling, oh, that was very not comfortable, that didn't work well or something?
I would say that comparing to the communication that started to be exclusively online during the pandemic, our communication that was exclusively online worked better. I mean, I don't know what's the secret why that worked, but I think if I would compare our collaboration then and the rest of our activity now during the pandemic, our collaboration was working easier. I don't know, everything went as it was planned. I don't know why, but I just wanted to say that.
Ervin?
I don't think that it doesn't matter if we use emails or Slack. There is one important thing: deadlines, and keeping the deadlines is is the key to a project that should have a good outcome.
And a strict project or a coordinating editor. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
So, okay, so that means at Szabad Pécs, this kind of new workflows were not causing any troubles, or?
We have other internal problems because we are an editorial of only two guys. So it was, even this project, the most part of the project took place during the COVID crisis. So yes, we need to do some bigger effort than usually, but yeah, it worked out.
Okay, before I come to the question how the readers were reacting, I'm not sure. Ulf, did you raise your hand before? Did you want to ask a question? Okay, maybe Andreas, can you unmute Ulf? Or Ulf, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, okay. There you go.
Does everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanna mark that. So from my experience is what about thinking about common topics is that more or less that the topics are in the same in different countries. Like so perhaps you know that I'm working mostly on local issues and local topics. And my experience is when I visited, for example, the Baltic states or communities in Poland, they've got more or less the same experience, like whatever in education, in the status of the streets, the bad conditions of roads, traffic things, public transport or whatever. So I think there's one kind of red line in all this.
And I mean, it's also kind of an answer or an experimental answer to, you know, to what we call classical foreign reporting, which is on this national level, not focusing so much on common topics, but more on something that is happening in another country, and we will try to translate it to you. But there are a lot of common European topics out there, and they are not treated as such so much. So that's why we think it should be not a, you know, shouldn't be, it just should be a new approach, an extra approach to foreign reporting that could be that has some advantages, right? And especially if it helps also media that normally has no foreign reporting at all.
That's the thing. Like, if we don't have money to have a foreign correspondent somewhere, then how can we produce the quality content with some quotes or you know, pictures from the field if we are not able to send somebody to another country for financial reasons or now for pandemic reasons? Obviously, the classical foreign reporting was something that didn't have this problem, but we are talking about a situation when we are not really able to move, and that's why we are trying to work with the colleagues abroad in order to not to, you know, like in Polish we say, write an article from your desk, which is somehow negative, right? That you didn't do anything, you are just sitting at your desk and that's all. So we are trying to, you know, just go around and have a quality content in the end.
So better collaborative desk reporting than only one national desk reporting.
One national desk, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like I said, if you don't have the luxury to pay foreign correspondents in other countries, this might be already a very big step forward if this kind of relationships could be established and be a more normal part of editorial rooms. And that's what my question would be, like, what do you think? Will this, if we don't, you know, would this, we already established some structures, you know each other. In fact, you could still use the Slack channel if you would like to. But how do you see the potential of such collaboration? And this was very experimental, right? So we are not near of anything like, okay, maybe we still find much more relevant ways, or even also maybe find ways how to report about recent news or so on. But is it something that you could imagine to integrate into your media also without external funding, but on this kind of solidarity, collaboration, win-win situation frame? Or is it something that is just at the end you say, okay, it's nice, but we have more important things to do in my own country. These topics are much more important, and so on.
For us, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. For us, I would say this is the only way how foreign reporting would work, because our readers usually don't expect international news from us, from Szabad Pécs. But if we have something that connects them, then they are going to read about other countries. And yeah, this could be also interesting on an international level. Yeah, so I would occupy what you said.
So you say it would also be possible that you just maintain this kind of connection, and if you would want to use them, you are just doing it without any external funding. That was my question. If it's something that you could, you know, if everyone wins from this, you don't need funding. You just get the content, right, that you want with the editors you have.
There could be certain topics where it would be useful, and the only way to do it. Yes.
It would be great if anyone, I don't know, Anna, maybe? What do you think?
I wanted to say, as we are doing solution journalism, for us, this is one of the options, because if we find a good solution, a working solution in another country, we either connect with a Moldovan citizen that lives there or with a local journalist. So if we knew a journalist in a country where the solution works, we would like to connect with the journalist. So of course, if the journalist would be open to help us, we would do the same that we did in this in our project, in this cross-border project. Twin. Kaja, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it a twin piece? Yeah.
Which one?
Well, the solution stories were.
No, they were two different. So solution were not twin because one solution was presented to all of the countries.
So in our case, we would be open to present the final piece and to translate it in English and with no funding, because it is also in our interest to present a good solution piece.
And Robert?
I think that foreign news are not so much popular among readers and auditorium. I'm afraid all over the world it's always hard to find interesting angle, interesting story which is relevant also for the domestic readers. So in fact, I wouldn't like to be the foreign correspondent in Czech Republic, because if there are some financial cuts in Czech media houses, they are usually among the foreign correspondents and also culture and sport. Domestic reporters and economical reporters, they are quite okay still, but the foreign news are, you know, everybody have a feeling that to pay some agencies like Reuters and agencies like this is enough. As Kaja mentioned, it's kind of desk journalism. We call it Google journalism or Facebook journalism as well. And so I just want to even the big media, Czech big media houses do not have foreign correspondents, for example, from Brussels, even not from the Brussels. And so it is definitely good to have some network of people who can use and ask them for help, or just ask questions, because to be honest, it must be win-win situation. I cannot ask, let's say, I don't know, Anna or Ervin to write me article for free, because it takes time. It's complicated because it should be in English, and you know, from this point of view, it was great that it was paid by third party, but it can work in normal way as a relationship between people who knows each other. So I can ask Ervin, is it something new with your nuclear power plant in Pécs? And he can write me, no, it's nothing new, or you know, just short answer which gives you quite important information. So from this point of view, it definitely can work for the future as well. without money. Yeah, I can give I think good example. I don't know if Ervin's colleague Attila wrote us a really interesting part about that nuclear power station. I used only a small part for the article, but I used almost all the text he sent me as his kind of comment, and it was quite a popular text because, as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, this topic is quite important now in Czech Republic, and my colleague journalist from Czech TV public TV from the big investigative magazine asked me to give him a contact for Attila. I don't know if they wrote him. So you can see this is the way how it can work, because our colleagues from journalism world read our articles and say, oh, hey, it's interesting. Would it be possible to get contact for somebody in Moldova, or Poland, or Hungary? And they asked me to give him the contact for Attila. I gave him, and suddenly there's a new way of cooperation, not among us, but from another medium. So it can work as a good example.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wants to add something to this question, Anna or Kaja, or do you have questions? Anna or Kaja, do you want to add something about? No, okay. But I was just actually because Krytyka, Kaja, is it was not the first cross-border project at all for Krytyka. They are they are very familiar with this kind of projects, but is in any way different from others, or reaction of readers to these new kind of formats? Did you?
No, I think that the readers didn't really pay attention that this is something different, because, like, as I said, we are opinion magazine, so we don't do classical foreign reporting. Like, we don't write news neither about foreign countries nor about Poland. We write opinions about all over the world, so it was not that different. But I don't think that this is important, that the readers should know what was the idea behind that. What matters is a good content that was produced with the help of foreign journalism. And yes, Krytyka is and was involved in many international cooperations, but I think what matters is the network of people who are already in, and it's very important to spread this type of cooperation. As I said, I'm quite familiar with this type of searching for contacts or via my friends as a freelancer, because I don't have super big editorial office behind me. So I'm doing all that things on my own, and I think it's already typical for my generation, not only in Poland, but in generally for freelancers. And I know that it works better and better when all the people know what's going on. I mean, like, how to say that I know that I will give this couch to my friend from Czech Republic, and I will help him or her as a fixer, because I know that someday I can need this help in the future, right? So this is how it can work on the editorial level. But I think what's important is the experience of the journalists who are already involved, because I can imagine that as an editor, it would be quite difficult to brief. I have a new journalist every time, and I have to brief him why should he or she contact this person and how should they cooperate, and so on. So I think the better way would be not to stay with our editorial offices and insist on finding cooperations with journalists from other medias from the region, but rather spread this type of cooperation between the journalists themselves, so that they have this this consciousness or this awareness that they can use it and that they can pitch ideas that are already based on the idea of collaborative work.
Yeah, thank you, Kaja. I also think okay. We are getting to the end, but well, we are now here. You know, we are all in some kind of cross-border mindset. But I experience a lot of times, especially when I talk to more larger media and people in the region, who actually their self-image is that we are doing foreign reporting, but if you look at it. It's mostly what Robert called already Google or Facebook reporting. And of course, they maybe also have some contacts, but I don't think that the quality of foreign reporting in a lot of countries, and even in Germany, we have discussions about the quality of foreign reporting, because we have less and less foreign correspondents, less and less experts in other countries. But in general, the quality of foreign reporting would be much better if we would exchange the experts, if there would be a pool of people like Robert mentioned.
And cooperate with local journalists, right? It's also a very typical problem for journalism, like the relation between a journalist from, I don't know, New York Times coming somewhere to the Middle East and hiring a local fixer who is actually doing everything for him, but is not mentioned in the article. So it's also
that's also another topic, of course, and you also need maybe freelancers who are experienced in foreign reporting, because like about context, and you still need expertise and so on. But this kind of ignorance in a lot of like larger media, and it really hurts for me personally, because I often have this feeling in Germany. You know, there are a lot of fake news about, for example, Germany or Western Europe in a lot of these media in these countries. A lot of fake news on a daily basis in the government and government media and so on. And this is just one example. And there is nobody there to fact check them because they don't have the resources. And it's happening, like it's a constant flow of false information inside the European Union sometimes, and also outside the European Union. And at the end, we are all wondering why there is so much friction and so on. I think this kind of informational crisis is part of it. I don't want to overemphasize it, but I also don't want to underemphasize it, right? So the information that a lot of people, countries like, for example, Hungary, get about the outer world is very, very little, and often also very false and manipulated. And it's not because they wouldn't be good journalists, but there are just not so much resources. So also in this way, in the Western media, a lot of editors, they don't have this, they don't even know about the situation, right? They just assume that foreign reporting is just a normal thing. Everyone has a correspondence. Why should they collaborate with someone from another country or so? And when we understand that these kind of topics are much more connected, and also it's connected to everyone. If there is a huge informational crisis in some countries, and maybe some governments profiting from it, who are then having more influence on the European level. So it's all kind of connected, you know. And sorry, I'm losing my voice. Just one aspect. I really think that also that what's happening already on the freelance journalist level, this kind of collaboration, cross-border collaboration, it should be much more in a discussion about, okay, how can we do it also as media, not only as small media, but in general, right? Because these are often two different spheres. Also, there are some people who are in between these spheres. And I think we should all carry it more into the medias. That's my personal statement at the end. If anyone wants to add some last finishing words, this is the time. No? Okay.
I just want I just want to mention that sometimes it bothers me to answer questions from foreign journalists because they try, they coming to Czech Republic. They have some contacts from, I don't know from where. It was one wave recently because of Daniel Křetínský, Czech oligarch who bought the Le Monde magazine in France. It was a wave of French journalists coming here. It really takes time. You have to meet them. There's, you are doing it for free in your free time, but still, which is the more important part of my sentence, I still meet them because I consider it as a sort of collegiality. You have to help them because you never know when you will need some help from France, from any country. So just want to encourage myself and everybody to be collegial with all the journalists, even it takes time.
I want to add something too, please.
Yes.
I think the future of foreign journalism could be what I mentioned before, that if you work in local affairs, it's necessary or it's needful to have a kind of network we've got here about n-ost or whatever. I think the future is for foreign journalism is to look on a more or less local, so-called local topic from different sides. So, example, if I'm working on a local topic about education, I want to know how it is in Bremen's partner cities like Gdansk or in Durban or something like that. With several, then it should be useful to contact a colleague to ask to write down or send some information. How is the situation in general in Bremen's partner city? I think perhaps we should try to go this local small steps.
Yeah, I think it's valid for all areas of journalism, and this is also hopefully now a bigger trend that is happening in the last years, and maybe it will be much more normal in a few years. And we are not in the very experimental mode anymore, but more in the default mode. And I really want to thank you again for not only participating tonight and sharing your experiences, but also for the great project. And I'm really glad to hear that the general approach was heading into the right direction. And we will continue now the kitchen talk, but not on Facebook Live anymore. Polina also wants to add some words, so thank you from my side to Anna, Kaja, Ervin, and Robert, and I leave you the last words, Polina.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Also thank you, Anna, Kaja, Robert, and Ervin for the project and for the discussion. Thank you, Christian, for hosting us in your lovely kitchen and moderating the discussion. It was very interesting, as it was actually the first very hands-on discussion that we had in the online kitchen talk so far, and we will be glad to continue. The public part is over now, and we will continue only with those who are in Zoom. For those who are not, please register in advance next time so that you can stay with us for the informal part. We will be back next week already with a discussion on the outcomes of the Polish elections. So please follow our announcements on Facebook. I think on Monday we will publish all the information. And please send us your feedback and ideas for topics. We are very happy to hear what you're interested in and to discuss how to develop your ideas. And yeah, see you soon and cheers.